A note for our listeners, this episode deals with themes of suicide. Please take extra caution when listening.
Welcome to Foundations of Emo, hosted by Claire and Danny. Each episode we take one of our favourite bands and dive deep into their history and origins, reminiscing on our own emo roots along the way.
Hi Danny.
Hello.
We're very giddy.
Yeah, I don't know what's wrong with us.
We've just started and we're super giddy. And we have to record 2 episodes, so this is going to be a long evening.
Whoop, whoop. But they're 2 interesting episodes.
I can't wait to hear what your episode is. But my episode is also really nice. Okay. I really enjoyed listening to them.
Yeah.
Did you?
Same. Yeah. I was actually listening to them when I was getting ready this evening, even though I've listened to it all. I was like, I'm just going to listen again to get in the mood.
They're just like a classic.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Any
news? New. When you're listening to this, it's Valentine's Day. So happy Valentine's Day.
Oh, happy Valentine's Day. Anyone doing anything exciting other than working? Silence.
Do you know what I hate? And like, I honestly, like times I've been completely single or like in relationships or like, it doesn't matter what my status is. I can't stand people who give out about Valentine's Day. Like, it's just so miserable. And people are like, it's just a Hallmark holiday. So is everything. Like, everything. You don't hear people giving out about Mother's Day.
Yeah.
It's the same fucking thing. And like, even if you are single, appreciate the people in your life that you do love. That's what I like to do. Or celebrate Galentine's or something like that.
Yeah, I don't have any feelings towards Valentine's Day. Like, I try and pretend like, oh, it's grand, I didn't want any presents or anything. But then if I don't get one, I'll be really, really annoyed.
I was with someone like years ago who was coming up to Valentine's Day, and he was like, oh, we're gonna have an amazing Valentine's Day, I'm gonna do all this stuff for you. And I was like, oh my god, no one has ever done anything like that for me. So I was really excited. On the day, he surprised me. Like, we went for breakfast, he surprised me, he brought me to the zoo. We went for drinks. I hadn't been to the zoo in years at the time, and I like kept going on about it, so it was really nice that he did that. Went for drinks, and then he's like, you're going to need to be drunk for the next part. And I was like, what? And brought me to a roller disco. And it's terrible. I can't skate. I never want to do that again. But like, it was more the thought was nice.
Yeah.
Even though I did not enjoy the roller disco. And then he told me that he'd booked flights for us to go to Barcelona for the weekend.
What?
So that was like the best Valentine's Day that I'd had. And then the next Valentine's Day...
He broke up with you?
No. It was coming to Valentine's Day and I was like, oh my god, can't wait for Valentine's Day. How are you going to top last year? And he's like, Valentine's Day is actually a load of shite. And we did nothing. And after that, we never did anything ever again for Valentine's Day because he decided he didn't like it anymore.
Oh no.
Which I was like, if someone doesn't want to celebrate it, I'm like, that's fine, that's on you. But like, don't set the bar so high. Just to be like, nah, actually.
Oh, that's really sad.
Yeah.
I don't have any nice Valentine's Day stories. Ryan always sends me flowers to my work, so I'm expecting
that's so
them this year.
embarrassing.
I know, but I'm totally expecting them this year, and if he doesn't send them, I'll be really sad. He doesn't listen to this, so I can say this.
Ryan, send her flowers, bitch.
Okay.
So I actually got a little Galentine's gift for Claire that she had no idea about.
Oh my god, it has cats on it.
It has cats on it. There you go. Happy Galentine's Day. Appreciate
the
it.
bag alone is the best thing I've ever seen. Can I just point out, Danny is so good for like presents for any occasion. You could like,
I love giving presents.
I don't know what you could do, something really irrelevant. Danny will get you a present for it.
Love it.
Oh my god. Okay, so guys, the card says, bitch, you're my soulmate. You're my too. Oh, that's so cute. Oh. Okay, now what's the present? What is this? Oh my god.
What is it?
I'm excited. Do you have one?
Yes.
Oh my god! Guys!
Merch!
We have merch! It's a t-shirt with our logo on it!
Whoop whoop.
Oh my god, this is the best present ever. Thank you. We can wear this for the next episode. Guys, who wants to be on our street team?
We'll send stickers to your house.
This is the best. Thank you so much. I didn't get you anything. Okay, now I feel really bad. Let's move on.
I got an ad like on Instagram. It was like, make your own t-shirt. And I was like,
Oh, have we not
will
thought of
I?
that before?
Yeah.
You've given me some great t-shirts so far.
I'm just trying to dress you for the pod.
Wait, is this a hint?
Right. Let's start the episode,
okay, we better
shall we?
start this because it's going to
After
be
all
like
this little love in.
3 hours long anyway. You ready to learn about Linkin Park?
Let's go.
Let's go. In 1996 in California, 3 high school friends, Mike Shinoda, Rob Burden and Brad Delson, formed a band together called Zero. After they graduated, they decided to pursue music seriously and recruited 3 other members, Joe Hahn, Dave Farrell and Mark Wakefield. Mike Shinoda had a makeshift studio in his bedroom, so the band began recording and producing songs. This resulted in the band's 4-track demo album called Zero, released in November 1997.
Wow.
I know, how old 1997. The band played their first show that same month, opening for, wait for it, System of a Down.
Their first show?
Yeah, in a nightclub in West Hollywood.
Oh my god, unreal.
Like, how good is that? The nightclub is called Whiskey A Go-Go and has hosted so many bands, including Alice Cooper, The Doors, Led Zeppelin, No Doubt, Elton John, Guns N' Roses, to name a few. So the fact that their first show was here is pretty unbelievable.
Yeah, everyone knows like the Whiskey is such a fucking staple venue. That's unreal. Your first ever show. That's crazy.
I just love the fact that Mike had a little studio in his bedroom.
Yeah.
Oh, so cute. So Brad Delson had interned for Zomba Music in college, and it was through this internship that he met and knew a guy called Jeff Blue, who offered the band constructive criticism so they could catch the eye of record labels. So Zomba Music was a division owned by Sony Music.
Never heard of that before.
Knowing people in high places. Blue was impressed with the band, but thought they needed a different vocalist. He might have been right, because the band failed to secure a record deal, which led to a lot of frustrations, and Mark Wakefield left the band to pursue other projects. Dave Farrell also left to tour with the Christian punk band known as Tasty Snacks.
Tasty Snacks?
Snacks with an X, I'll have you know.
But they're like a Christian band. Why? Where did they get that name from?
I don't know, but it's great.
Are they talking about the communion wafers?
They're pretty tasty, you know, to be fair. The band spent a lot of time searching for a new vocalist and eventually found one in Chester Bennington, who was actually recommended by Jeff Blue. So I feel like we owe the formation of Linkin Park to Jeff Blue. Chester was in a post-grunge band called Grey Days, but subsequently left them to join Zero. It was when Chester joined that they changed their name to Hybrid Theory as a nod to the dynamic and newborn vocal chemistry between Mike and Chester, and also as a way to revive the band. They recruited a temporary bassist to replace Dave Farrell, who was still with Tasty Snacks. And in 1999, they released an EP which they circulated through the use of street teams.
I love that they were originally called Hybrid Theory because of the dynamic, because that dynamic to me is Linkin Park.
Is Linkin Park, and there was no one else who was doing that.
Yeah.
Or is really doing that
Yeah,
now.
I think that is their thing.
Yeah.
Like.
But they still struggled to get a record deal, so they again turned to Jeff Blue, who was now the vice president of Warner Brothers. They had failed to impress Warner Brothers on 3 previous reviews, but thanks to Jeff, he helped them sign as a developing artist to the label in 1999. However, they were advised to change their name as there was already an artist called Hybrid who were popular at the time. I'm really glad they chose the name Linkin Park, because the other options were Player, which is how my niece says Claire, and Platinum Lotus Foundation.
Oh my god, wow.
I don't know.
That's a horrific name for any band.
Yeah, and I don't even know where it came from. But Linkin Park is a park in Santa Monica, but they had to change the spelling of it to acquire the internet domain, and hence Linkin Park was born. Whoop whoop. Initially, Warner Brothers were not impressed. They didn't like the hip-hop element, and a representative actually suggested that Chester fired or demoted Mike, but Chester refused to compromise the band's vision and supported Mike, which I think is so nice.
Yeah, it's really nice. I can't believe they wanted to get rid of him. I love Mike Shinoda.
I love Mike Shinoda. He's just the best. Dave then returned from Tasty Snacks in 2000, and that same year the band released their album Hybrid Theory. Hybrid Theory, as we all know, was an absolutely massive commercial success. It sold more than 4.8 million copies in its first year and earned the title of Best-Selling Album of 2001. It is certified as 12 times platinum. Jesus. I don't even know what that means. And was the best-selling debut album since Guns N' Roses' Appetite for Destruction. The single in the end peaked at number 2 on the US Billboard Hot 100, and other singles were featured in various films. The album also won a Grammy for Best Hard Rock Performance for the song Crawling, and was nominated for 2 other Grammys. Even though Dave had just returned for the release of this album, he doesn't actually play on it. And it's the only album of theirs he's not featured on.
I think what's interesting to me is that it got so big straight away. Like, I remember when Linkin Park came out, I wasn't into rock music. So when Hybrid Theory came out, I wouldn't have been interested or known anything about the music. But I didn't realise it was so big straight away. I kind of thought that was one of those albums that people went back to.
Yeah.
And then it would have done such success after the fact. Yeah. But straight away, wow.
I think the more and more I was writing this, you really start to appreciate how successful they actually were.
Yeah.
I never really grasped how successful they were until right now. The success of the album meant that they were invited on numerous tours such as Ozfest. They also formed their own tour project, spelled with a K, Revolution, which was a festival that brought different genres of music together. Apparently within just 1 year, Linkin Park had performed at over 320 concerts.
Wow. In a year?
Yeah, considering there's 350,
Yeah.
356?
65.
Oh my god, I have dyslexia. They released their follow-up to Hybrid Theory 2 years later. The album was called Reanimation and was remixes of the songs from Hybrid Theory. And I never understood this album.
Yeah.
Did you?
No, and I didn't listen to it this time around
no,
either.
And I never listened to it the first time around either. I didn't get it. I was like, what is this?
I think I've listened to like 1 or 2 songs off it and I'm like, I don't know.
It did, however, reach a peak position of number 2 on the Billboard 200 and stayed on the chart for 33 consecutive weeks. It is also apparently the 4th best-selling remix album of all time. Who would have thought?
I wonder what the other 3 are. I hate remix albums.
So do I just don't get them. While touring extensively, the band spent as much time as they could in their tour bus's studio. Imagine having a studio on your tour bus.
I think a lot of bands do that.
That's so cool. And announced their plans for a new studio album in December of 2002. The album is apparently inspired by a place in Greece called Meteora, where there are numerous monasteries built on top of rocks.
I did not know this.
I did not know that either. I assume that's something to do with like space. It was released in March 2003 and instantly went to number 1 on the Billboard 200, selling over 810,000 copies in its first week. Overall, it sold around 16 million copies and is the 8th best-selling album of the 21st century.
So that's when I got into Linkin Park.
I think I was in... No. What age would we have been then? Yeah, same. Yep, that would make sense.
I got into Good Charlotte and then for some reason went from Good Charlotte to Linkin Park. But I remember listening to that album Meteora and I thought like, this is the heaviest music I've ever heard in my life. Like, it's so heavy.
But the ironic thing is, if you liked Linkin Park, you were absolutely not respected amongst the... Well, I didn't think you were. Amongst the like hard rock crowd. They were like, this band is shit.
Yeah. I think it's because Chester had melodic kind of vocals and stuff, so it wasn't like heavy. But like I remember I was like freaking 12 or 13 and I listened to it and I was just like, oh my god, this is really intense, but I loved it.
And I think the themes of the albums as well, I was very like, oh my god, this is so like hard rock and heavy. My 13-year-old self. I remember there was a girl I went to school with and she had a Linkin Park Hybrid Theory hoodie and I just thought it was the coolest thing I've ever seen. I did not have one. I did go on holidays though and they were doing those like printing t-shirts and they had like one image of Linkin Park and I got that t-shirt and it was the best thing ever.
I don't think I've ever owned any Linkin Park merch ever.
I want to get Linkin Park
I would get it.
now.
I would get some now.
I read a piece from an interview that Mike did and I think it just highlights how talented they were. For Somewhere I Belong, Chester had recorded a guitar part of the intro but didn't like it because it was too folk rock sounding. So Mike and Joe reworked it, added effects to it, and then played it backwards to make the intro that we all know and love today. Mike said, since I reversed it, it was playing 4-3-2-1. The chord progression was reversed. Then I cut it into 4 pieces and I played it 1-2-3-4, and that's why it has that sweeping sound. And I have no idea what that means, but it's just like, you don't realise how much work they put into all these albums. We just listen to it and we're like, it's a cool piece of music. But like they have all this like stuff in their brain where they're like, let's cut it up backwards and mix it up. And blah,
imagine
blah.
you're writing a song, you're like, this isn't going great. Like, where in your brain do you go, let's play it backwards?
Backwards. Cut it into 4 pieces. The main criticism for this album is that it sounds too like the first one, with some even describing it as a Hybrid Theory Part 2. But I don't see the problem with that.
Yeah, that's a good thing.
We all love the first album. Why wouldn't we want one that sounds the exact same? The success of this album led to Metallica inviting Linkin Park to play the Summer Sanitarium Tour 2003, and I think we've all heard the stories of them being booed at this.
Yeah.
Which again, is not their fault.
Like, I'm sorry, but Metallica aren't like the heaviest band in the world for people to be like, ooh, Linkin Park aren't heavy enough, to play with them.
That's very true.
I hate those metal fans.
I know. I had an opportunity to go see them in Marley Park on this tour, but my mom wouldn't let me go because I was too young.
Oh.
And now I'll forever hold it against my mother because I'll never see them play again. Thanks, Mom! In 2004, they started a world tour called the Meteora World Tour, and they were supported by Hoobastank, POD, and Story of the Year. Throughout this year, however, the band's relationship with Warner Brother Records was deteriorating rapidly due to several trust and financial issues, but they settled the dispute and came to a deal in 2005. After Meteora, the band all kind of took to side projects. Mike worked with Depeche Mode and Chester worked with DJ Lethal. And then the band began to work with Jay-Z on the remix album Collision Course, which was released in 2004. Again, another remix album.
I just don't know why this has to exist.
I do love Encore though.
Everyone likes
Yeah, that's a great thing. Mike also formed Fort Minor during this time, which is essentially a name he uses for the collaborations he does with 2 hip-hop artists. Didn't listen to any of that either.
I've heard it before, but like years ago, I can't remember.
Yeah, I've heard it as well. I thought it was a band. I didn't realise it's essentially just him.
Same. I thought it was a band. Because I've always liked him, like always.
Yeah.
Thought he was really cool. So I remember being like, oh, he's got something else going on. But then I was too young to, go look it up or like do anything about that.
I think I read somewhere where he was like, I set myself the challenge of literally playing every single instrument on this except for like the drums or something. Which isn't that what Patrick did from Fall Out Boy when he did some solo thing?
Sure.
Yeah. Remember, think back to that episode. Linkin Park also participated in a lot of charity events around this time and raised money for victims of both Hurricane Charlie and Hurricane Katrina. They donated $75,000 to the Special Operations Warrior Foundation in March 2004 and set up a fund called Music for Relief to help victims of the 2004 Indian Ocean tsunami. They were also part of Live 8 in 2005. In 2006, they performed with Jay-Z at the Grammy Awards ceremony where they were joined on stage by none other than Paul McCartney.
That's so random.
The collaboration we didn't know we needed. Jay-Z, Linkin Park and Paul McCartney.
You know, when I was listening to No Encore, I always thought, this needs a bit of Paul McCartney on this now.
I think he like
Chef's kiss.
worked in bits of that song yesterday, which I just can't imagine. I should have looked it up, but it sounds awful to be honest.
All I can hear is Jay-Z being like, can I get an encore? Do you want more? Yesterday, all my troubles seem so
fun.
What?
I don't know. Look it up afterwards. The band returned to the recording studio to begin working on their 3rd studio album, this time with producer Rick Rubin. They recorded between 30 to 50 songs for the album, which Chester hinted would stray away from their new metal sound. The album title Minutes to Midnight is a reference to the Doomsday Clock symbol and is the first album from the band to have a parental advisory label.
Yeah, did they not have swearing on the other albums?
Their remix albums did, but not their actual studio albums.
I never caught that.
Yeah. And as soon as I read this, I went, I know why. It's because that line where it goes, fuck this hurts, I won't lie, doesn't matter how hard I try. Yeah, I know. I think that's also why the hard rock metal fans didn't like them, because they didn't curse.
You don't swear, so you're not real metal.
So this was released in 2007 and debuted at number 1 on the US Billboard 200 charts and in 15 other countries. In the US, it had the biggest first week sales of 2007 at the time, selling 623,000 and went on to be certified 5 times platinum. Notably, people have said it sounds like there is less of Mike on the record. However, that's probably because he is singing a lot more, doing a lot of the harmonies. Did you feel that?
So this album I didn't listen to back in the day because when they came out with the singles from this album, I didn't like them. And I was like, this doesn't sound like Linkin Park. I don't like it. So I was like, fuck that. And I just never paid any attention. So this, coming up to the episode, is the first time I've ever listened to the album.
Yeah.
I did miss Mike. I did want more of him on it. Like, I feel like Hybrid Theory and Meteora work because of the dynamic.
Yeah.
The hybrid theory, if you will.
Oh, I see where you're going with
It's Chester, like, having his incredible, like, singing voice.
Yeah.
But also being able to scream.
Yeah.
And then Mike doing some rapping. And to me, that's Linkin Park. That's the dynamic that works.
Yeah.
And this album was missing it. Now, to be fair, I liked the album more than I thought that I would. Like,
Yeah.
I did think there were some good songs on it.
Yeah.
I think that there was also some bad songs on it. And I think that they didn't release great singles off it. Because I think they were more radio friendly, the ones they released.
I absolutely love that song, Bleed It Out.
Really?
Like, I'm obsessed with it. I don't know, I was like listening to it when I was texting you last week and I was out for a walk and I literally was like and just that bit at the start where it's like I just love it. But I was the same as you. I only listened to singles off it. This was probably the first time I went and listened to the whole album. It was fine. Didn't hate it. Didn't love it.
There was one or two songs I was like, ooh, okay, I think I like this.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I didn't feel like they were Linkin Park because they weren't doing the dynamic.
Yeah. Moved away from their new metal sound. So Mike has 3 solo lead songs on this album. And some people really didn't like this album and felt the band were trying to create a new identity for themselves. And one critic even described the song Hands Held High, which is about terrorist attacks, as far and away the funniest thing you will hear all year.
Is that the one that's all about like Jesus and stuff though? Or something?
I can't remember, but like...
There was one that was weirdly religious and I was
that
like, oh, I don't know about this now.
No, I wouldn't say it was the funniest thing I've heard all year. That's a bit harsh.
I mean, it was pretty bad. Like, I couldn't believe it. I mean, that sounded like a song that should have been by Tasty Snacks.
All the singles from this album had success, and the band won the award for Favourite Alternative Artist in the American Music Awards that year. They did a world tour called the Minutes to Midnight World Tour, which I love how they're keeping these tour names so simple. And they also did a fourth Project Revolution tour in the US, which had My Chemical Romance, Taking Back Sunday, Placebo, and Him. I don't know why I looked at that and said, that says Haim.
I would love to have been there. That's an amazing... It's a weird mix of bands, but I would enjoy seeing all of them.
Yeah. I think, isn't that what Project Revolution was all about? Is it bringing all these weird bands together that you never would have put together? So later in the year, they toured Europe, Asia and Australia, and also headlined Download Festival that year. Chester already said at this time that they were planning to do a follow-up album to Minutes to Midnight, but they wanted to go on tour first to gain inspiration for the album. They did another Project Revolution tour in 2008, and this one featured Chris Cornell, The Bravery.
The Bravery?
Do you remember
There's
The
a name
Bravery?
I haven't heard in a long time.
Do you remember that song in the video with all the dominoes?
What's it called?
Honest Mistake.
I was like, I was going to say Stupid Mistake.
Yeah. And I had a lot of bands I'd never heard of. But the grind never stopped for Linkin Park, and in 2009 they announced they were working on their fourth studio album, with Mike telling fans it would be genre busting while building off of elements in Minutes to Midnight. He also said it would be more experimental and hopefully more cutting edge. Rick Rubin was confirmed as a producer for this album again, and the title was revealed as 1,000 Suns. It was released in September 2010. The album is a concept album dealing with human fears such as nuclear warfare. Which I don't know, I thought that was so funny. I'm like, it's not my first fear. Like, I'm scared of it.
Every night I go to bed to think about the nuclear warfare. I mean, obviously terrifying. Terrifying concept.
It's just not the first.
All humans fear.
The title is a reference to a Hindu scripture, a line from which was popularised by Robert Oppenheimer when he described the atomic bomb. It's the band's longest studio album. Did you like it?
No. I did not like it.
Oddly enough, I went back and had a second listen to these, and I liked them much better when I listened to them the second time around, because I think I knew what I was expecting. Whereas when I listened to them the first time, I was like, what the hell, this is not Linkin Park. But when I listened the second time, I was like, no, okay, they're actually not that bad.
I think this one was like fine, I think, wasn't it? Like, it's just nothing...
There's probably nothing really standouty on it.
Yeah, that's what I felt about this one. I was like, it's not like terrible. I'm not like, oh my god, turn it off. But I'm also just like, never want to listen to it again. Like, it's just fine, but not for me.
Well, again, it debuted at number 1 in the US Billboard 200 chart, but had noticeably less sales in its first week of around 241,000 compared to previous albums. It also debuted at number 1 on the Canadian Albums chart and number 2 in the UK behind the Scripps album Science and Faith, and number 3 in Ireland. A reviewer and Artist Direct credited the band for creating their own genre, and I think that is so accurate. It is their own genre. They just, like we said, doesn't sound like anyone else. This is the album that divided fans, and Chester was quoted in interviews saying that the album was definitely something we knew people would need to digest and get over the fact it's not something they thought we would do. Despite the division among fans, the album was still nominated for 6 Billboard Awards in 2011, including Best Rock Album.
I think what's wild to think about is how commercially successful that they were.
Yeah.
For like the genre of them and everything, and like they're quite heavy compared to other bands, you know, that don't get as big.
Yeah.
Like a lot of the emo bands we talk about aren't as heavy.
Yeah.
They should be more like mainstream kind of thing. So it's wild that these are so commercially successful.
Do you think though, like, I thought it was interesting when I was reading this that fans were like, this is not something we thought they would do. Like, all their albums, were probably a bit different, but they're all still kind of samey. Like, I wouldn't be like, wow, this is such a departure from Minutes to Midnight.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, there's elements that are different, but it's not like, this is going to divide me. But back to the grind. Chester told Rolling Stone in 2011 that the band aims to produce a new album every 18 months, and he would be shocked if a new album did not come out in 2012. A few months later, he revealed the band were indeed in the beginning phases of a new album, again with producer Rick Rubin. The title was announced as Living Things, and they stated it would be a return to form. Mike said the title refers to the fact the album is far more personal than their previous albums and is about people and personal interactions. The lead single was Burn It Down, the video for which was directed by Mr. Hahn.
Yeah.
I feel like Mr. Hahn. That's all I think of. I think he was so cute. And what other band had a Mr. Hahn?
Yeah, I love it.
Like, no one. And do you know that Mr. Hahn and Mike Shinoda have artwork on the Berlin Wall?
Oh.
Yeah.
There you go.
I've been to the Berlin Wall. I did not see it.
Next time I'll look.
So they promoted the album during the Honda Civic Tour, which they co-headlined with Incubus and performed Burn It Down at the 2012 Billboard Music Awards. The album was released in June and sold 223,000 copies during its debut week, and apparently beat Maroon 5's album Overexposed by 1,000 sales.
That makes me like them more. Anything that knocks Maroon 5 down a peg is good in my books.
Do you not like Maroon 5?
Do you know what? I said this one day years ago and I stand by it. If I was allowed to punch one man in the throat,
it would be Adam Levine.
It would be Adam Levine.
Is it Levine? No, it's Levine.
I don't care what his name is. I would punch him in the throat and I would enjoy it. There's something about him, I just want to slap him. Like, I don't condone violence of any kind, but
I'd probably agree with that as well, actually. Yeah, I see where you come from.
Something about him that just gives me the ick. Do you ever see those leaked Instagram messages when he was like trying to hit on women?
Oh no.
They're so sad. Like, the man has no game.
Oh. Yeah, he just strikes
me. It was like, hey, I like your boobs. Like, it was just it was horrible.
No, that's so awkward.
Did he say something? He was like, your booty is out of this world, or like, it's just like, it was horrible. No. It was so horrible.
Why do men think that's what women respond to?
Take me now, Adam. Wow.
Okay, back to Linkin Park. This also ranked at number 1 in the US album charts, but fell to number 6 on its second week. However, it became their best charting album so far and reached the top spot in 17 countries, including Canada and the UK. Critics seemed a bit meh about this album. No one hated it, but no one seemed to particularly love it either, which is kind of how I feel about all these albums. The following year, the band collaborated with Steve Aoki to record the song A Light That Never Comes. And wait for it. This song was used in Linkin Park's online puzzle action game called LP Recharge.
They had a puzzle game?
Yeah.
And I didn't play it?
It sounds like something I'd really like.
Me too. A bunch of nerds.
This was a free-to-play action puzzle game that was playable on Facebook. It was a game focused on solving puzzles and attempting to raise awareness about parts of the world that don't have reliable power.
Oh,
how cute.
I like that it had a message as well.
Yeah, I feel like most of the things they do have a message. It takes place in the not too distant future where humans have depleted all natural resources on the planet.
Wow.
I'm going to go play it now. I don't know if you still can.
Does it still exist? I'm going to play it.
The song was featured on Linkin Park's second remix album, Recharged, which was released the same year. Did you listen to it?
No.
No, me neither.
I did not listen to any remix albums.
It was entirely produced by Mike Shinoda and Rick Rubin. It's an album of remixes of 10 of the songs from Living Things and features a whole lot of artists that I have never heard of. It entered the charts at number 10 and actually did more business in 2014 compared to 2013, becoming the 8th best-selling dance/electronic album.
Well, so it's a dance electronic album, so I don't think I would enjoy listening to it.
Again, so commercially successful, considering the fact they're a new metal band. So Roll On, their 6th studio album, which Mike confirmed in 2013. So many albums. They literally, like when you read all the stuff about the pre-production and everything, they just never stopped.
Yeah.
It's like while they were touring, promoting the current album, they were working on their new album, and like Mike Shinoda would start doing stuff on his iPhone, like while they were on tour.
Yeah.
It's just like mental. So the band all felt this was a return to their earlier sound and dropped the electronic sounds of the previous 2 albums. They used Hybrid Theory as their template, and guitarist Brad joked that this album was an alternative Hybrid Theory, or maybe its prequel. And in a random beef, Mike criticised the modern state of alternative radio, saying there's so much stuff that sounds like Haim or Churches, and he's not hungry for that. He said, quote, I turn on the rock station in LA and it sounds like Disney commercial music. This led to Lauren Maybury, the lead singer of Churches, to respond to his comments by calling them a pointless dig. But Chester added to Mike's comments, saying that all the music now sounds like the soundtrack to Friends or The Wizards of Waverly Place.
That's very specific.
What is The Wizards of Waverly Place?
Is it like some bad kids TV show or like?
Probably.
I don't know. I don't like when bands take digs at like other bands for no reason. Like, yeah, pointless dig. Like what Lauren said was right.
Because Churches were very successful in their own right.
Yeah. Like we saw them support Fall Out Boy and I didn't enjoy them. But
did we?
Supporting Fall Out Boy in Brussels.
No, it's Paris.
Oh, see, I get them all mixed up.
I was like, oh my god, I blocked that from my memory.
But like I wouldn't call Haim like alternative. I like a few Haim songs, but I wouldn't be like, oh, that's really heavy music.
Also, I see where you're coming from, because Churches have a V instead of a U.
Yeah, that's why I got mixed up. But I would like to say that I enjoy Mike's turn of phrase saying, I'm not hungry for that.
Yeah.
That's if someone recommends me a band, I listen to them, I don't like them, I'm going to say, I'm not hungry for that.
The drumming on this album was apparently much more difficult than any of the previous albums, and their drummer Rob actually had to work with a personal trainer to become physically fit enough to keep up with the speed of the drums. During a marathon recording session, he actually blew his back out and had to be seen by a chiropractor, which is just dedication to the cause.
Oh my god, fair play.
But there's another thing, like we'd never noticed that the drums were faster on that.
No.
And they put so much time and effort into them. Chester actually missed out on a lot of the initial recording for this album because during this time he was the lead singer in the band Stone Temple Pilots and toured with them for most of 2013.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I know, I didn't know that either. When he did join the recording sessions, he was surprised at the heavier rock sound the band had started to create. They released their first single from this album, Guilty All the Same, which features American rapper Rakim, in March 2014, and shortly after its release they announced their new album would be called The Hunting Party.
I hate this album.
Yeah, so again, I know I texted you and I was like, what the hell is this? And when I was listening to it, I was driving to Belfast and I was like, oh my god, can I keep skipping these? But again, if you go back and listen to it, knowing what you're in for, it's not as bad.
No, I hated it. Like the first song's really heavy, isn't it? And then I don't know what was going on.
That one with System of a Down on it. I was like, whoa, what is this?
It's just like every song was different. Like there wasn't even like a vibe. Everything was different, but like I didn't like any of it. I was like, oh my god, am I still listening to this fucking album? Like I hated it. Well, I really, really had a bad time with this one.
Do you have any idea why it's called The Hunting Party?
No.
You wouldn't. You'd never guess. The title is apparently a contextual metaphor. Linkin Park is the party that is hunting to bring back the energy and soul of rock.
They're hungry for it.
I have no way to quote him where that came from, but that's what it said.
Okay.
The full album was released in June 2014 and had multiple musical collaborations, including songs with Tom Morello of Rage Against the Machine and Darren Malkian from System of a Down. It debuted at number 3 on the US Billboard 200 behind Lana Del Rey and Sam Smith's new albums and was praised by critics for the band's return to their heavier rock sound of their older albums. However, this was their first album since Hybrid Theory to not debut at number 1 and was their lowest peaking album.
Well, I think just because it's heavier doesn't mean it's like good.
Better, yeah. Yeah, if you said to me out of all their albums one of them didn't do as well, I would say it's this one.
Yeah.
Just on a guess. After the release of The Hunting Party, Linkin Park performed at Download Festival where they played Hybrid Theory in full, and that summer they headlined multiple festivals with the likes of Metallica and Iron Maiden, which again is massive. Like they were so... I didn't realise they kept being that successful. I thought they kind of died out.
I feel like I didn't hear so much about the newer albums.
Linkin Park did really well in terms of awards in 2014 as well, winning Best Rock Act at the MTV Music Awards and Best Rock Band and Best Live Act at the Livewire Music Awards. In an interview with Altwire, Mike said he was really happy with the reaction from The Hunting Party and thinks the band were ready to move somewhere new on their next album, which he confirmed would be coming in 2016. Do you feel like they say this at every album?
Yeah.
I feel like every album they're like really happy with that. It's going to be something new. And it's like, it's not that new.
But if you're really happy with it, I don't know.
Yeah, I know.
I don't know, why do you keep changing it if you're always really happy with it?
Work on this album began in November 2015. The band was apparently following a new process for producing this album, with Brad commenting, quote, "We've made so many records and we clearly know how to make a record and we definitely didn't take the easy way out this time." And to be honest, I feel like none of their albums were the easy way out because your man literally injured himself the last time.
Yeah.
This album was primarily produced by Mike and Brad. I read a lot of interviews various members of the band did about this album, and again, there is so much creativity they've put into it. Talking about layering guitars and juxtaposing influences, which I find really interesting because we just listen to the album and we take it at face value.
Yeah.
We don't we're not like, wow, that was a juxtaposing influence.
Wow, I can
in that
really
last
tell
song.
the Paul McCartney influences there.
The album was called One More Light, and it's their first album to have a title track. So no underlying meaning for One More Light. There are multiple collaborations on this album, including Kiara, Pusha T, and Stormzy, and there is 0 screaming vocals.
Stormzy was a weird one.
Stormzy was a very weird
When I was
one.
listening to it, I was like, what is this like UK grime artist? Like, this is before I knew it was Stormzy, but I was listening, I was like, what is this? And then I saw Stormzy, I was like, well, that makes sense.
He must have been big at that time, wasn't he? He was probably when he was just coming out. The album cover is actually a photo of a friend of the band's children, and according to Mike, the photo represents what the band members feel when their respective families get together. It's just cute.
Kind of cute. Kind of weird. Someone's like, hey, I want to put your kids on my album cover. I'd be like,
I thought they were
don't know about
aliens. I looked at them. Whatever way it is, I thought Michael looks at them and it's like, it's a bunch of aliens. I don't know. Sorry. The first single from the album was Heavy, marking the first time a Linkin Park song from a studio album has featured a female vocalist. Which I never thought about, but it's true. The full album was released in May 2017, and the band embarked on a world tour that month to promote it. One More Light was not well received by critics. Most of them felt Linkin Park had effectively sold out, with NME giving it only 2 out of 10. Many of them didn't have an issue with the fact it was essentially a pop album, but the issue seemed to be more that they felt it was commercial and contrived pop music. Newsday, which is a daily newspaper in the US, did give them a review which I think very much reflects my own thoughts on the album, which was comparing it to the likes of Coldplay and emphasising how Linkin Park really absorbed the current pop scene and applied it to their own music to genuinely reflect who they were at that moment and not who some fans wanted them to be.
This album was fine. Like, it's a lot better than that Hunting Party one.
Yeah, it's very much of the time. I feel it was very 2017.
Yeah, and it's still very, like, not Linkin Park.
No. But, like, catchy. I was listening to it and I was like, I'm vibing with some of these songs.
It's fine.
I'd sing along to some of them.
It was on kind of in the background in my head.
Yeah,
like, I kept going somewhere else and thinking about something else because I was like, it wasn't holding my attention, but like, it was grand.
Like, Chester in particular was not happy with the response from fans and critics and lashed out in many interviews, suggesting that those people who think they sold out should stab themselves in the face and move the fuck on.
That's intense.
That was very intense. He also said, quote, if you're going to be the person who says, like, they made a marketing decision to make this kind of record to make money, you can fucking meet me outside and I will punch you in the face.
Meet me outside, how about that?
That's literally all I think about when I hear that. Mike was less aggressive in his response and rejected the claims they had made the album for monetary reasons by simply saying, that's not how I roll. Which I love.
I kind of like that, yeah.
I like Mike's like, that's not how I roll, bitches. Chester explained that the accusation of selling out angered him because he took it as a personal attack. Corey Taylor, the lead singer of Slipknot and Stone Sour, offered Chester some advice, telling me he understood his frustrations, but advised him to be fortunate for what you have, be fortunate for the fact that people are still coming to see you to hear the music. Give it a little time. It's like, oh,
that's fair enough.
Solid advice from Corey Taylor.
I like Corey Taylor.
Chester later responded saying he agreed with Corey's comments and he was grateful to all the fans.
Too late, you just told them to stab themselves in the face.
Not those fans. Despite all this drama and backlash, the album still debuted at number 1 on the Billboard 200 charts, giving the band their 6th number 1 album, and they are one of the very few bands to achieve that. In the UK, it debuted at number 4, making it their lowest charting album in the UK since Hybrid Theory, but according to worldmusicawards.com, it was the world's best-selling album of the week, ending on June 3rd, 2017. So again, still really commercially successful, despite the fact we're like, it was fine, despite the fact critics were like, not great.
I wonder who the fans are at this stage. Because being the like Hybrid Theory Meteora fan, I don't think like this music is for me.
Yeah.
But I wonder who is out there, because I don't think like the same fans that I'm with are the ones who would be buying this.
I don't think fans grew up with them.
Yeah.
I think we just took them and left them.
Yeah. But I wonder who it is appealing to now that they're still getting to number 1.
A very good point. But on 20th July 2017, tragedy struck. News broke that Chester had died as a result of suicide by hanging, aged 41. Mike tweeted, shocked and heartbroken, but it's true. An official statement will come out as soon as we have one. The band had just released a music video for the single Talking to Myself earlier that day. Chester had been on holidays with his family, but had come home that day alone, telling his wife he needed to work. Do you remember where you were when you heard this?
I think I was in work.
I remember waking up. I was just like reading it on my phone and being like, what? Because like
I was working in the airport, because I remember that day I had to drive home. I think I was on the super early shift, and it was like lunchtime when I was driving home, and my car had like an old CD player, so I used to listen to CDs driving to work, but I dug out Hybrid Theory I had in the car. Aww. And I played it driving through town with the windows down.
Oh, that's so sad.
I remember that.
So a lot of his friends and family did interviews in the months following his death where they reflected on their last interactions with him, and a lot of those interactions seemed very positive. He'd even emailed former Guns N' Roses drummer Matt Sorum the day before he died, saying he wanted to perform with their all-star covers band again. However, it was well known Chester had battled with alcohol for years, and there was some alcohol found at the scene of his death. The autopsy report revealed he did have alcohol in his system when he died. His bandmate and friend Ryan Shook, who played guitar in Chester's side project Dead by Sunrise, speculated that although they don't know how much alcohol was present, when you're an advanced alcoholic and an addict, you don't need much to lose your mind for a minute. Tragically, Chester had been close friends with Chris Cornell and was even the godfather to his son. Chris Cornell had died by suicide just 2 months earlier, and Chester performed at his funeral.
Was it only 2 months?
Yeah, but wait for it. The day of Chester's death would have been Chris Cornell's 53rd birthday. Yeah.
That's so horrible.
I don't think I realised how connected those two... Like, maybe it's not. Maybe it's all coincidence.
I had heard that Chris Cornell, like, the death of him had a huge influence on Chester, like a huge impact on him.
Yeah.
But I didn't realise it was so close between the two of them.
Yeah. So sad, like. The day after Chester's death, the band called the North American leg of their One More Light tour off. On July 24th, the band released an official statement, which is honestly so heartbreaking to read. They mentioned that to Linda, who is Chester's wife, and his family want him to know that he was the best husband, father and son, and the family would never be whole without him. They also stated, "We're trying to remind ourselves that the demons that took you away from us were always part of the deal. After all, it was the way you sang about those demons that made everyone fall in love with you in the first place. You fearlessly put them on display, and in doing so, brought us together and taught us to be more human." They ended the statement by saying, "We love you and miss you so much. Until we see you again, LP." That's so sad. I'm actually nearly crying. Like, that's just so sad. Because I think, like, obviously you always knew Chester had serious problems or whatever, but you still just don't expect that to happen. Especially when he's like 41 years of age and he has 6 kids.
6?
Yeah, so I think he was like married to someone and adopted one of her kids. They broke up there and then had a few other kids there along the way somewhere.
It's just... like, the fact that he was making plans the day before goes to show that this was not something that was, like, planned for a long time. Like, maybe he had thought about it several times. Yeah. But, like, it wasn't, like, a plan, like, I'm going to do it tomorrow.
Yeah, and the way everyone was saying, like, literally we talked to him and he was absolutely fine. And I think he was quite open and honest about when he was struggling. So people probably expected if he'd say it, like. But the fact, I don't know. Very sad.
So sad.
So the next month, Linkin Park were due to perform on Good Morning America, but instead Chris Cornell's 12-year-old daughter Toni performed the song Hallelujah. Hallelujah, did I say that right?
Yes.
With One Republic as a tribute to Chester. Chester had previously performed the song at her father's funeral.
Jesus Christ.
I know, she's only 12.
Oh my God.
A tribute concert to Chester was held in October called Linkin Park and Friends. Celebrate Life in honour of Chester Bennington, where multiple guests performed Linkin Park songs with the band. The band has remained on hiatus since Chester's death. In 2018, Mike said he had every intention of continuing on with Linkin Park, but they have a lot of rebuilding to do and questions to answer, so it would take time. A few months later, however, he said he was uncertain of their future. And actually, on that note, I saw something where somebody suggested getting a bloody hologram of Chester. You know what I
stop.
I know, and literally Mike Shinoda was like, what the actual fuck? Like, no, we are not doing that.
I went in the Workman's, they did a, like, tribute night after he died. They played Hybrid Theory from start to finish, and you just, like, you had to pay in obviously, but all those proceeds went to, like, suicide charities. It was so nice. And when I tell you, I had goosebumps the entire time I was there, because it was just like the room was quiet and people were just singing along to all the songs. It was devastating. Like,
you know, Jodie does that gig every year with Phoenix Park and they donate the proceeds to charities as well. But last time I was at it, it's like you forget that Linkin Park was a part of, like, everyone's teenage years. I remember there's a guy beside me who could only be described as someone that looks like a football hooligan, like with a football jersey, and like the most non-Linkin Park fan you would ever see, and he was singing along to those songs like louder than anyone else. It's like,
stop.
It just brought us all together. In 2019, Mike reiterated that they were all open to continuing Linkin Park, but it was not their goal to look for a new singer, and if it happened, it would have to happen naturally, because they would never want to feel like they were replacing Chester.
Isn't that exactly what happened with We Came as Romans?
Yeah, I literally
exactly,
was
like nearly word for word.
Yeah. They did release a track in 2020 that was originally recorded in 1999 and included it on the 20th anniversary edition of Hybrid Theory. But Mike again reiterated in 2022 that they were not working on new music or a new album. Mike has released a few albums since 2017, and Joe Hahn has been released in various projects, including composing scores for movies, but there hasn't really been a whole lot of updates on them since. And that is literally the end of Linkin Park.
Go on, Mr. Hahn. I will tell a story actually about when I saw them.
Go on.
So I saw them in, what month would it have been? I think like June 2017. It was only a few months before he passed.
Wait, you saw Linkin Park?
I saw Linkin Park.
I hate you.
I know. So they were a band that I'd always wanted to see, but like never had the opportunity to. And like they weren't my all-time favorite band, but because they were such a big impact on me when I was younger, like I always wanted to see them, even though I didn't listen to them anymore. And they were playing at Download, and I went to Download in Paris, and the gig was really strange. So obviously it's different because it's French fans as well.
Oh, yeah.
So you're like with a lot of French people, which is kind of random. But so I don't know if it was like specific to the French audience or something.
Yeah.
But whenever they played, like, you know, they started with probably like One Step Closer or like, you know, one of the big songs, and everybody went insane.
Yeah.
And then when they started playing the newer stuff, people started actively booing them.
No, like, see, that's just...
It was crazy. People were standing there with like their middle fingers up at the stage when they played the new stuff, and then they'd play Crawlin', and everyone would like be singing and jumping along again, and then they'd play another new song and it'd be the same thing. This went on for the whole gig, and it was just so bizarre, because I'm like, if you're there to see the band, like, just like respect them at least.
Like, there's loads of songs I don't like from some of the bands we go see, but I don't stand there and boo.
But that's it. It's like I don't like some of the newer music, and when they were playing it, I didn't know the words like I do for like the other ones, so I would just stand there quietly, or maybe that's when I go to the bar and get another drink or something, you know. I'm never like actively booing the band I'm there to see. It was really weird. And then when he killed himself a few months later, it was just like, I don't know, that really like stuck out to me, that people were booing them so much for like making new music.
Reading all his reactions there to One More Light and the way people were responding to it, in my head I was like, that must be so hard to like put all that time and effort and work into something and then have people be like, this is shit. Like,
and it's so hard, I think, when you're an established band as well, because if you're a new band starting out and you make something and like people aren't receptive to it, you're kind of like, oh, you know, maybe I don't know, this isn't for people, maybe I need to think about changing it up or something like that. But like when you're an established band, you already have those fans, and then you get this feedback that's like, fuck you, I hate this. Like, that's so hard.
And the one thing that I got from doing this episode and like doing all the research is definitely I did not appreciate how talented they all are. Like, not necessarily saying I understand any of it, but you can tell they're all so talented in what they do. And like the way we said there about them splitting up all the songs, and you can understand them wanting on every album to like push themselves and like try something new, because they're obviously so creative and stuff. It must be so boring to do like the same thing. So to put all the time and effort into it and then have people turn around and be like, it's shite, even though we couldn't do it.
Yeah, that's it.
So
all those French fans, I'd like to see you make an album,
yeah,
sir.
Exactly. So I think I definitely appreciate them a lot more now.
And I think what you were saying, that like they were always working on the next thing, they were always working as well. I think that they deserved all the success that they got.
Yeah, 100%.
Because they worked for it really hard.
Yeah, and they're clearly one of, you know, the most iconic bands of that time period.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I do love them. R.I.P. Chester, I miss you.
I think it's such a sad story.
I'm so sad I will never get to see them. Like, so sad.
Like, I can't believe how lucky I was that I got to see them several months before it happened.
So that was that.
I have videos on my phone I can show you.
Okay, thanks. So I didn't even look into any controversy because I didn't want to know. Don't want to know.
Yeah.
None of them are perverts. It's cool. Favourite band, Linkin Park. Woo! So do you have a song on repeat?
A song on repeat? I don't know, this time around listening to it,
I had fun, man.
it's on Hybrid Theory.
Papercut.
No.
One Step Closer.
No.
Points of Authority.
No.
With You.
It's called
Crawling.
A Place for My Head.
And
I remember when I got into Hybrid Theory having that on repeat loads, and it's like stood out to me again this time around listening to them. So I'm gonna go with that one. But I would listen to Hybrid Theory like a million times on repeat, or Meteor.
Yeah.
Easily. I could repeat it all.
My song on repeat is Bleed It Out, would you believe? Yeah. I was gonna go with something more obvious. It was between that and Faint. But Bleed It Out.
Any of those classics.
I love that. It's just like, if you're in a bad mood, anyone, or you're feeling down, or you're going to work being like, I don't want to go to work today, put on Bleed It Out and you will be ready.
Song to skip is whatever the first song is on Hunting Party, the like really heavy one. It was just weird.
Keys to the Kingdom.
Yeah, it's really heavy.
I kind of like that.
Oh no, I didn't like it at all. It's not that I have anything against really heavy music, but I just didn't like that song in particular. Didn't think they did it well.
My song to skip was Castle of Glass. Oddly enough, I think it won, or at least it was nominated for some award for like best song in a game or something. But I just absolutely was not feeling it. Oh, 1,000 Suns, it must be on that one. So now we come to the big reveal. Danny's next band.
So things are a little different this time. We're recording 2 episodes back to back because I'm swamped with college work, and I'm also going to Milan next week, which is what you do.
Sorry, I'm just going to Milan.
You know when you're like really swamped and have loads of stuff to do, and you're like, I'm just gonna go away for a few days
To Milan.
I'm just checking out for a little bit. So just so that we weren't late on episodes, it made sense to record 2 back to back. And it also made sense because I started researching this band and I started writing the episode. And then when I got to the controversy section, that took over to the point that I don't want to listen to the band. So Claire doesn't know who the band is, and I have not listened to them. We're not like talking about the music per se.
We're boycotting them.
They're like super cancelled. So we didn't want to give them the Spotify royalties.
What's it like? I have been racking my brain trying to think of who this is.
So we're going to do Aiden.
What?
Super cancelled.
Are they?
Super cancelled. To the point that we can't listen to them anymore.
Okay, of all the bands you could have said, I never would have envisioned you were talking about Aiden.
I heard there was some controversy, and I was like, oh, I never really looked into it, and it was years ago, and I don't listen to them.
Oh, something is coming into my head. I feel like I know this controversy. Oh, this is going to be a spicy one.
So the next episode is going to be our Aiden episode, and it's, I'm just going to put trigger warning for literally anything in the world. So if, literally, if you're triggered by anything, don't listen to it. Skip that one.
But thanks for listening to this one.
Yes. We've gone from sad to, like, spicy in a bad way.
So our Aiden episode will be 2 weeks after this one.
Yeah.
28th?
Sure.
Is that good maths on my part? Woohoo!
We're staying on schedule, so we should have that up in 2 weeks anyway.
Thank you for listening to us. Please follow us on Instagram.
We are Foundations of Emo on Instagram and TikTok. We're Foundations Emo on X. And we post fun things.
We post little clips of ourselves, and we post cute little Valentine's Day memes if you're stuck for something to send your loved one.
Send her a Valentine from us.
Also, on that note, we forgot the most exciting thing that happened.
What?
Sorry, Rory Rodriguez.
Oh yeah, we got shared by Rory Spencer from Daisy.
Is that his name?
His name on Instagram is...
Okay.
Yeah.
So I saw Danny posted something, and then I saw that he had responded to it. And I literally nearly died and had a heart attack. I was like ringing Danny straight away and texting her being like, Danny, pick up your phone! And she like didn't answer, and I was like, Rah! And then when she came and she FaceTimed me and she was like, what? I was like, did you not see who just liked our photo? So thanks so much for that. We are mates with the best of the best.
He was my hero of the year.
Yeah. Did you tell him?
Big win.
We should tell him.
We should message him. You are my hero of the year. And then we'll be blocked. Anyway, go follow us on social media because you never know what's going to happen next.
Okay, bye.